the latest news on the case of Yemen. And moments ago, we've learned that one of the Iranian airplane that is trying to break down the siege on Yemen. They did that before, and today they tried to do it again, and they landed finally in Yemen, in not in Sana'a International Airport, which was hit by Saudi Arabia fighter jets. The fighter jets from Saudi Arabia hit the runway of the airport in Sana'a. Then the Iranian airplane went to Al Hodeidah in the western part of Yemen under the control of Ansarullah. They landed. There is a footage showing that the airplane landed there. So this is the outcome of that is Yemen. The foreign ministry of Yemen said that the ceasefire between the two, Yemen and Saudi Arabia, is over. What is the outcome of that? They may attack the pipeline of Saudi Arabia that goes from Saudi Arabia to the Red Sea as an alternative to the Persian Gulf. As the Persian Gulf continues to be closed somehow, there is no movement in the Strait of Hormuz. As you know, yesterday there was a active fight between the two sides, the United States and Iran, and they may do something with the Bab el Mandab in the Red Sea, and that could bring a lot of that is the other leverage they have. This is the way that it is right now. Donald Trump said he today had an interview on Fox News, said the United States gonna control the Strait of Hormuz and the toll system gonna be in the hand of the United States. They're gonna charge tolls for anybody who tries to use the Strait of Hormuz. This is the situation, Paul. And when it comes to the two fights, one, I don't know if Yemen gonna get back to the fight, but they said the ceasefire is over. But when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, basically, as I've mentioned, you look at the website, the maritime, tracker or maritime sort of, and go to the website and checking the Strait of Hormuz, you see no movement in the strait. And the United States was trying to hit the targets in Iran with the use of HIMARS yesterday, which was different because so far it was all about fighter jets getting there and close to the Iranian borders and hitting the targets. Last night was an attack from Kuwait and Bahrain on the southern part of Iran and on the western part of Iran, which is close to Kuwait, using HIMARS. Paul, go ahead. And the necessity, it seems that the priority for Donald Trump is the strait and the oil market, which is not doing great, by the way. Just mentioning what has happened before the war started, the oil reserves, the strategic oil reserve, petroleum reserves of the United States was 395 million when Donald Trump was elected in January 2025. Before the war started, they increased that by 20 million barrels. It was 450 million barrels before the war started. During the war, until now, we have a reduction of 95 million barrels because they were trying to use that reserve to balance the oil market. This is one of the major concerns of the Trump administration right now. And with the case of the Strait, how do you see the situation with the conflict?
Well, as I have said from the beginning, the conflict never ended. And it was a mistake for the Iranians to accept the ceasefire. So what we have happening now with these new developments that you explained, and there are more that I will add later, is Iran and the Yemenis and Hezbollah have got to make a decision whether they're going to fight a war or continue this losing game of tit for tat, ceasefires, broken ceasefires, more tit for tat. That can continue for a decade or two. Or they're going to fight. So if the Yemeni can destroy the Saudi pipeline to the Red Sea, then the pressure on the West mounts rapidly. And the question is, what can the West do? And Trump blusters all the time. He's claimed a dozen times at least that he's already destroyed Iran and there's nothing left. And yet the Iranians are left and they control the strait. So how does the United States get control of the strait? It can't. It doesn't dare send its warships there. So it's bluster, it's talk on the part of Trump. And by refusing to see that this is an existential war on which Iran's existence depends, Iran and its allies are not dealing with the situation. The other day, the spokesman for the Iranian Foreign Ministry said, "Oh, we don't attack people, we just defend ourselves." Well, this is mindless. It's utterly mindless. The Iranians are trying to present themselves as great moral people and contrast that with the criminals in Israel and Washington. But what effect does that have? The whole world has put up with Israel's genocide of Gaza. What did the Iranian leaders think the United States or Western Europe or anybody cares how moral they are? They don't care. This is a false goal that the Iranians are trying to achieve. You know, the Russians tried to do the same thing. Oh, look at us. We're so much better. We don't do these bad things. Well, all Washington hears and all Tel Aviv hears is these people don't have enough sense to fight for their existence. That's all they hear. We're dealing with fools. They won't fight. They don't have enough sense. So it creates an environment that escalates. Now, let me tell you the worst thing that's happened, particularly for Iran. There are news reports. We never know the validity of news reports. But there are news reports that Putin, the president of Russia, has agreed that Turkey can turn over its S-400 air defense system to the United Arab Republic. Ah,
You mean
what?
UAE, United Arab Emirates?
Emirate, yeah, yeah. Now, and the expectation is that this system will enter all of the Gulf oil chiefdoms. Well, I'm not a weapons expert, but my understanding, if it's correct, is that the S-400 Russian system will have no difficulty blocking Iranian missiles. So once that system is distributed, Iran's lost all ability to hit American bases or Israeli targets if they get it. So by sitting there, not taking the war seriously,
Paul,
trying to,
the news, I think that news is unlikely. I don't see Russia letting that happen because if it gives to UAE, it means that they're going to give the information to the United States. And what does that mean for Russia? What does that mean for the whole? Because they have their security concerns.
it means
I don't know
that,
who has reported on that. I haven't seen any sort of
okay, just
report.
a minute, I'll tell you. Hold it just a minute. Oh, this will take us, oh, this, if I click on it, Well, Nina, let me answer you this way. I'm going to write about this when our interview's over,
Yeah. Okay.
and I'll send it to you because I have it
Great.
up on the screen shared with this interview, but if I click on it, I'm not sure what happens to our StreamYard connection.
Okay.
I'm not
No
very.
problem. Which is this? What is the outlet? What is the? I'm gonna find it and share it here.
Russia open to Turkey selling S-400 air defense systems to UAE. Middle East Eye. It's in the Middle East Eye.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
All right.
Your
Well,
assessment.
um, if this, and you ask, why would Russia do this? Apparently, money. John Hilmer reports on it this morning. And it looks like what's happened is this Kirill Dmitriev, who's one of Putin's pets, who's a shill for the Russian oligarchs, uh, has convinced Putin that this pleases Trump. And by pleasing Trump, they'll get some kind of agreement connected to the Ukrainian mess that will allow the oligarchs access to their fortunes in the West and their renewed business interest, and that these business interests are what's important to Russia, not a military victory in Ukraine. So that seems to be what it is. It's another way of Putin kowtowing to Trump and following the advice of Dmitry, that and the oligarchs, that this appeal, this saves the situation for Trump, because now the American bases can be protected, and Trump will respond by giving them a settlement that removes sanctions, and business can return to normal. So that seems to be what John Hilmer is suggesting is behind this. So we've seen for years that Putin is unwilling to fight. We've seen that for years. He won't even admit he's at war. He pretends it's a terrorist operation. So I think the Iranian delay is dooming them. They're losing every advantage by being tricked or pressured by other Muslim countries and Russia and China into negotiations that can lead nowhere except Iran's destruction, because it gives time for all of these things to happen. So that's the most serious thing. The Iranian and Yemeni effort to use oil as a weapon to paralyze the West, this should have been done a long time ago if they were serious. The fact they haven't used this weapon shows they're not very serious. Well, who's serious? The Israelis and Trump, their agent, and the Russian oligarchs who could care less about the outcome of the war in Ukraine, who only want their access to their fortunes and their business opportunities restored. And so bribe Trump. Let's give the Americans the protection they don't have by letting Turkey transfer the S-400 to the UAE. Well, You have the report. You saw it.
Yeah, I
And
saw it. I shared it.
there are
Our
others.
audience saw this.
Mhm. So um, this transforms the situation, and Iran takes the upper hand from Iran. And the fact that the Saudis were interfering with the landing of an Iranian plane in Yemen shows they are also now back in the Americans' pockets. And that Turkey would do this shows they're back in somebody's pockets, but it's not Iran's. And so we are seeing once again what I've always emphasized: there's no unity among the Muslims. The idiot Saudis and the idiot Turks are helping to destroy themselves by cooperating in this attack on Iran. They'll be next. And they have the wits to see it. So this is the real situation. Look at it closely, Nima. Let's just start with a tit for tat game. Who pays the cost of tit for tat? The Iranians and the Americans. What does Israel pay? Nothing. They're not being titted for tatted. So, and whose aggression is responsible for all of this? Israel's, but they suffer no consequence. There's no consequence to Israel. The consequence is suffered by whatever targets the Americans hit in Iran and whatever targets in the Gulf states that the Iranians hit the Americans. So this is a perfect situation for Israel. They're running the show and they have no cost. Nothing happens to them. Well, what's wrong with the Iranian leadership that they let a situation like this develop? This shows a total failure of thought. It's an inability to perceive the reality. So how are they going to prevail? They don't even know what's happening. This is the situation. And of course, as I've said, the Saudis, stupid. The Turks, stupid. Unbelievable stupidity on display. Oh, we'll help the Israelis get rid of Iran. Well, the Iranians need to wake up and understand they're at war and that the determination of Israel and the United States is to destroy their existence, not have a peace negotiation, not accept some Iranian terms that they're going to control the waterways. The United States will never accept that, ever. It can only be imposed by force, by Iranian force. It's the only way this thing can be resolved is by force. So the question is, who is willing to use the force? That's the side that will win. And that's what it's about. It's not about anything else. It doesn't matter what he said or who said what. And so the picture should now be clear. And the question is, can the Iranians see the picture? And if they can they come up with some kind of a war plan that works for them? Or have they waited too late? Sit, wait, sit, wait. And the whole time they sit and they're always vowing. They vow this, they warn this, they vow, they warn. You have to act. They've adopted the Putin role, running on at the mouth and doing almost nothing.